Our final speaker is Dr. Felix. He's going to come up and talk to us about sort of a counterpoint to that private and small group practices are sustainable and viable practice models, or maybe not.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you very much for inviting me. I felt when I got this invitation like I was a sacrificial lamb coming before you, but after hearing Dr. Talamini, I don't feel so bad because we're not so far off. We're a little bit different. My only disclosure to you is that I am a private practice physician and surgeon. And I'd like to know, just for the few people in here, how many of you practice, at least part of your practice in private practice? Okay, so actually most of you. So I'll talk to the ones who had their hands up. The rest of you can go to sleep. All right. How do I get the next slide here?
Oh, there's a clicker up there. Little box.
Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about is private practice, small group practices. Are they sustainable? Are they viable models that we can do? And I think Dr. Talamini actually has intimated that in some way they may be, but I'll try to carry it a little farther. Well, what is the future and who will dictate it? And I think this is a real problem. It used to be from the bottom up. Patients would decide who they want to see, and they would dictate who the physicians were, and that's who succeeded in practice. Then physicians kind of got the power and organized, and then all of a sudden it was the insurance industry that took over, and finally what we have today is the government, and we know that they run bureaucracies very well, and they, as Dr. Rosenberg has pointed out, are going to try and save money, but in the past I don't think the government has saved too much money, but that's what they're going to try and do. So the government's premise is, and this is all based upon some of the things Dr. Rosenberg has said, is that the American healthcare system is a failure. It's broken. I don't personally feel that way. Even after hearing his talk, I still think we have a pretty good system, better than a lot of the systems I visited in the other countries, but it's supposed to be broken. We're unable to deliver high-quality care consistently across populations. And we're unable to deliver, there it is, value for health care delivered, an important word. Is that really true? If I took another poll in here of those private practice guys, I don't think you all feel that this is as true as the government thinks it is. Dr. Rosenberg said it is, maybe it is, but somehow we're delusional. We think we're still doing a good job. Well, the government mandate, you've heard all about it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it so you understand it from a layman's point of view. I'm not quite as educated as the professors are. I kind of am out there in the ground floor, so I'll do it from my point of view. There are several innovations that are going to come about. There's the ACOs, and you've heard all about that, and I want to tell you a little bit more about it because I think there's more that you should know about it than what you were presented so far. And there's bundling of services which are going to take place for payment, and that's really the important thing for all of us. Well, what do these innovations mean for us? First of all, and I'll go through this very, very quickly, there's a lot of technology that's been pointed out that we're going to have to pay for. There's a lot of electronics that we're going to have to pay for, and it's going to be very expensive. For the solo person or the person in a small group like myself, that's a tremendous cost. But the problem is the costs go up, but the amount we get goes down. And everybody will, I think, agree to that one. Want to raise your hands if you disagree? I don't see any hands. Okay. All right. What does bundling mean for us as a practitioner, as a surgeon? What it really means is that someone is going to determine who gets the bundle and is going to distribute it. They're then going to have to account for what is everybody worth. What is your surgery worth? What is the other physician's worth? What is the post-op care worth? What is the pre-op care worth? Because it's going to be a bundled fee. There's going to be an amount coming down, and as you'll see in a minute, it's not just Medicare, but there's going to be an amount coming down that's going to say to you, here's what it costs, somebody's going to pass it out, and this is your share. Well, again, we're going to get decreased reimbursement for increased work, just like one of our Kaiser people has said. Even at Kaiser, where they live a pretty good life, they're working 20% more than we are, or they were in past. Well, will private insurance mimic public policy? And I think they will, because if you look back in the early days of gallbladder, when Medicare came in with their low prices, My friend said, don't worry about that because private insurance is going to pay you. We all know now that we get from private insurance basically either the same, sometimes lower, or slightly above Medicare. So what will happen is the private insurance companies will follow the Medicare model. In my opinion, it's only a matter of time. Well, here's the question. Can we as private surgeons survive? And I only think we can survive in one of two ways. One, if we really stop this out-of-control train, even though some people don't think it's out of control, I think the train is, or we find a way to get on board and join the train, as Dr. Talamini has intimated. Well, how do we derail the train? I'd love to do that. Well, I think it's through power of politics. I would disagree with Dr. Talamini. I think that the PACs are important. If you look what our senators and congressmen do, it's based on money donated to PACs. We need to get involved in that, and that's very important. But also, it's because it's what physicians and patients want to do. If we can influence our politicians, I think we can change it. I think that's what the elections are about, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Well, how do we get on board? That's a more important question because I don't think we can derail it. I think this train is out of the station. It's barreling down the tracks. So maybe we better get on and get on in a way that benefits us. Well, is there a model to do that for the person like myself who's in a 2-man practice, or for you that are in a 5 or 10-man practice, or you that are at a university? Is there a way for all of this to work? Well, there's lots of different ways that have been proposed. There's hospital organizations, there's independent practice associations, and we don't have the time to go into all these. But in my search, and I'd searched the internet, and I really looked into this because I was as ignorant as probably most of you are now in the audience about this. So I looked at it. And all I could find, I didn't find the Philadelphia one, but I found a group in Illinois, my old home state, who have done this. And they are tremendously positioned for the ACOs and for the future. What the advocate physician partners have done in Illinois, mostly in suburban Illinois, is that they have managed to put together private practice physicians, physicians who work for the hospital themselves, and for academic physicians, and put them and pool them all into one group. They then are able to contract with that large group. And the key to their contracting is the hospital does not have the power. In fact, it's equally shared in their hands. And in fact, they have a little bit more voting power than the hospital does. And they work as a group together. They work in a group together to save the money, just as you pointed out. They work together to improve quality. And they work together to get better patient care. But they still do it from an individual private practice position. They don't give that up. Important to them is there is incentive pay for performance. So if you do well, as the others have pointed out, you go to the top, you get more money, and they're going to keep you around. If you do poorly, they don't just kick you out in this model, they educate you. And that's part of the whole process, is this continuing education of the physicians to try and improve the model, to save more money, to bring more money into the system. Well, I've been very brief. But in brief, I think the private practice surgeon may be an endangered species. I hope not. But I think if we are willing to adapt, just like the wild animals in the jungle, when the city moves too close, you know, you got to adapt. You eat the neighbor's roses. You have to adapt, change the climate, and I think we can survive, and I think we can multiply. Well, good luck to you all survivors. I'm on Medicare myself now. So for the rest of us old-timers, it may be time just to head out to the beach. And this is my beach up the Central Coast in California. Thank you.
Thank you very much.